Hello.
Hello. Let's see.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, so we have, okay. Liz, Julia, Terry, Jennifer. I am going to, we have 9 participants. And I am going to all right, now I go to participants and I click upwards and that's supposed to tell me I can promote Jen, right, Julia?
Yeah, click on participants, go to panelist, then go to Jen's name.
Well, it says participants and then it's not saying the usual thing. I'm saying invite and it's allowing me to invite.
Nope, don't click on the arrow, just click on the little icon that says participants and you should
Okay,
have a column that
thank
pops up in your right
you very
hand
much.
corner.
Okay, and then oh gosh, okay. Hello, Sean.
Hello, everyone.
And then I go to panelists. And I go to Jennifer. And I go to more. Make co-host. Okay, there you have it. Okay, Jen.
And
Thank you,
now
Julia.
co-host. And now I can see when it's Dave's, when I go to Dave, I hit more, promote to panelists,
Right.
then he will join as a panelist. And then from panelists, uh-oh, I don't see him on my panelist list. There he is. Then I go to more and I remove. Just remove. Nope, change role to attendee. Got it. Thank you for bearing with me on that one.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Ben. Carla is in court tonight. I mean, I'm sure she will be joining us. But there is court tonight, which starts at 5 and Okay, I have 7 p.m. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to start with the minutes, please. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 24th, please?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Trustee Cormos. May I have a second, please?
I'll
I'll
second.
second,
Okay, up, okay.
either one.
I think Sean. Okay, I think Sean was first. Okay, may I have any discussion, please? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. I only have a few mayor announcements today. As I said earlier, Carla is in Village Court this evening, which begins at 5, so she will be here a little later. She'll be joining us. Okay, so happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I do want to say that while there have been some delays, we really believe that Ricketts, they will begin the process of taking Ricketts down this week, very likely on Wednesday. It's being, the demolition company is Jackson Demolition, so you'll see a lot of them around the site. And we have, not that the residents, it's not going to come as any surprise, but just letting them know that it's going to start this week. We've gone to with DPW tomorrow is going to go to various people's houses and, just telling them to bear with us with the noise level and that the project is going to start. Okay, so that's for tomorrow. Masks are no longer required. In keeping with the governor's and the ruling on masks and the governor's statement, masks are no longer required in village offices. The notices have been taken down off the departments of the village. Anybody obviously, hello, Carla. Anybody obviously who wants to continue to wear a mask indoors is welcome to do so. In response to Mr. Otten, I am going to raise the public comment period from 3 minutes to 4 minutes, extended to 4 minutes. And all comments should be civil, and all comments must relate to village business only. Okay, so that's at the end of the meeting at the public comment session. And I also want to say that we have Jennifer Moskowitz with us, who is the village administrator. She's been on before, but she is co-hosting the meeting with me starting today. Okay, so those are the mayor announcements and the treasurer. May I have your report, please?
Okay, just a few updates today. I want to thank Jeff, the DPW supervisor, for submitting the CHIPS, which is Consolidated Highway Improvements Program, otherwise known as the paving. This has been submitted on time, and we should be receiving the monies sometime around March 16th. Just as a general reminder, the start of paving this past year was delayed due to other projects, and therefore we did submit for the March reimbursement quarter as opposed to December reimbursement quarter as we have in years past. Update on the audit. Unfortunately, it has been a super long drawn out process. I did anticipate, as well as relay this to the board, having a report wrapped up prior to February. but unfortunately it has not come. I have been maintaining communication with Teal Becker, the auditing firm, and they are wrapping up the Section 8 audit, but I have not received an update on the village's audit. I've been bugging him more often than I like, but we're trying to get that complete and wrapped up. Once I have a little bit more, I'll relay that to the board. I am currently in the middle of submitting for the last piece of the grant involving Saratoga Avenue project. This was a grant that had 5 projects associated with it. The last of the projects were the Saratoga Avenue. This was, I believe, storm, water, as well as maybe sewer. I could be wrong on that one. I hope to have this submitted by the end of the week, and I will update everyone once the money comes in. Last, I do want to just state that water and sewer bills are due by March 2nd without penalty. We do have a 30-day without penalty for water and sewer bills, so please make sure to have your payment in prior to that to avoid penalty. I do also want to state we do have hundreds and hundreds of payments coming in. We are entering them in the order in which we receive them, but please bear with us for a few days if your check has not cashed yet. And that is all I have.
Okay. We do not have any old business. Under new business, we have a presentation. This is the departmental presentation, and the first person up is Treasurer Smith.
Okay. So obviously I'm doing a department report for the treasurer. Unlike other department reports, this report is provided on a fiscal year basis because our work is done by fiscal year rather than calendar year as other reports are being given. As most of you know, back in April of 2019, I was appointed as deputy treasurer to the village. I worked alongside the prior treasurer with day-to-day fiscal activities and to help assist the accountants in finalizing and catching the village up with the previous fiscal year's AUDs. Upon completion of that large task, I transitioned into treasurer in summer of 2020. Currently, my department includes myself, my senior account clerk, along with some assistance with utility and water billing from our inventory control / fire inspector as an official title. The treasurer's department is responsible for the budget process, including projections, estimations, meeting with department heads to discuss budget requests, putting together tentative budgets, calculating tax caps, assessments with dual towns, creating and posting tax warrants, and filling the information to create the tax bills. The process often takes 4 months, starting sometime in mid-January and being completed by the end of May. After the budget process is complete, we then start receiving and entering payments, which again come in by the hundreds. These payments come from both property owners directly and from the bank or your escrow accounts. The treasurer's department also deals with utility billing. This includes creating meter cards, entering meter card information, finding discrepancies in meter readings by running reports, applying fees, calculating bills, and getting them mailed twice a year, and entering payments once received. Over the past 2 years, we have worked on enhancing and enforcing a more detailed and complete water closing procedure. This water closing assists in finding broken meters and even audits accounts, such as meters that haven't been read or bills that haven't been paid. Total accounts that we have in our water and sewer utility is $2,148, accounts. Our water billing for this fiscal year has been $1,016,289.22. Our sewer billing for this fiscal year has been $227,691.20. Our non-read fee, which is the fee that was a newer fee, I believe, passed sometime in December of 2020, going into effect for the August of 2021 billing, is $37,100. And our meter read fee, which could consist of the fees from the DPW reading accounts after 2 or more estimates, or fees for the DPW going to read meters during closings, is $35,000. and $35,026. Other payments we take in rather than, and as well as water and sewer and taxes include employee contributions to health insurance, gross utilities, water and sewer payments, taxes, as I mentioned, fees collected from the court, library, and many other payments. The general fund year-to-date revenue has been $4,117,777.80. Sewer fund year-to-date revenue has been $139,964.72. And the library fund year-to-date revenue has been $150,490.01. Along with incoming payments, our department also pays out for expenditures. In the past few years, we have honed a process for purchasing by creating an updated purchasing policy, which mimics the village's needs, while still maintaining compliance with local municipal law. One of the accomplishments in the purchasing department includes utilizing our accounting system to generate purchase orders, which also allows us to account for outstanding purchases, such as encumbrances. Our purchasing consists of bi-monthly payments going out to our vendors. On average, this is approximately 75 checks each time, or nearly 100 vouchers being put together, authorized, and submitted for payment. Year to date for the general fund has been $3,423,998. The sewer fund, $204,954.81. And the library fund year to date is $160,897.72. Lastly, our department handles payroll. The village has 2 payroll cycles, one for weekly employees. Those are your salaried employees working full-time every week, and part-time/full-time hourly employees. This includes library staff, court clerks, DPW staff, police, school staff, village hall, and village hall staff. The second payroll consists of your part-time salaried employees. This is board members and zoning and planning members as well. Overall, the village has 89 active employees, which is full-time, part-time, seasonal, board members, and other miscellaneous. Over the past few years, we have outsourced payroll from our internal accounting system to a third party, otherwise known as ADP. One of the major reasons for switching is to properly account for each payroll cycle, which our previous system could not handle. A few positives to the payroll system now are easier tracking of hourly employees, a feature to automatically pay salary employees, and the ability to allow our employees to access a feature to access their payroll history and information more easily. Along with processing payroll comes processing third-party checks, union dues, deferred comp, credit union participation, etc. Accounting entries, frequent requests of historical payroll records for retirement requests, end of quarter reporting, workers' compensation reports, and yearly review of annual income in preparation of sending out W-2s. On average, our payroll can range between $28,000 a week to $45,000 a week, depending on timing of the year. In winter, we find higher payroll due to snow removal. In summer, we have higher payroll liability due to the pool, or in some years, the fair. Other responsibilities include review and verify contracts involving payment, lease agreement, union contracts, etc. Work alongside contracted accountants to reconcile end of month and submit the AUD. Run monthly reports summarizing expenditures and revenues, as well as give monthly breakdown for department heads. Prepare cost estimates for collective bargaining. Run utility reporting and analysis outcomes for any requested topic based on history and trends. Our department has also worked on the redesign of a new website approximately a year ago. This redesign makes finding items on the website a bit easier by classifying postings by departments, boards, and committees. Daily tasks include posting announcements and news, meeting minutes, and agendas for all of our active boards, posting events on the calendar, and general upkeep of names and photos. We regularly update the website and are excited to pass this torch and responsibility to the village admin moving forward. Our department demographics is myself, Julia Smith, as the department head, 1 full-time staff, and 1 part-time staff. Upcoming projects is one of the large ones that I've been working on for a while. This is the update and cohesion of all village phone lines. Been a project in the works for several months, and I must give credit to Jared up at Union Firehouse for helping me understand a lot of the technology and verbiage, as well as gathering quotes from other vendors. Our current delay in one quote would be from our current phone vendor. Things to note with the phone project is we will be converting eligible phone lines to a Wi-Fi structure as opposed to hardwire. This will enable us to seamlessly connect with all the buildings associated with the village. It has a proposed savings of approximately half our current phone bill. Things to note is that we have emergency lines that must stay copper wired and therefore unable to switch. We're also dealing with outdated wiring through many of our buildings, so it would require an update of wiring and internet speeds. As soon as I get the final quote, I will be presenting the vendor awarded to the board. I actually don't have any upcoming needs, and my department does not have upcoming needs as well. 1 second, sorry. Important information that the public needs to know. Information that I would like to relate to the public is due to changes of the water and sewer laws, our office has created a brochure to help utility users better understand the village procedures and timeline. If you would like to review this information, you can go to our website, villageofballstonspa.org, go to municipal menu option, click on water department, and the link to the attachment is called important water meter card / billing information, which can be found on the left-hand column of the page. Along with that on our website, we do have a bunch of information that you can find there, so please utilize that resource. And that is what I have.
Thank you, Julia Treasurer Smith, for that very, very thorough report. Okay, and that report will be posted under the Treasurer's Department on the website for anybody who would like to see the written detail. Okay. Any questions from the board?
I just have one. You said we might save half the phone bill. What is the current amount we're paying for phone services about?
I want to say it's about $56 per line. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've seen the phone bill. But switching over to a Wi-Fi based line would entail us using Wi-Fi, but it would cut the cost in half.
Oh, I was just wondering if you knew the total.
Yeah, I want to say it's about $56 per line.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a question. Thanks,
sorry.
Julia, for your report. Very interesting. What's the connection between the village and the fairground in terms of staffing? Is that a DPW thing or police?
We don't have any direct staffing with the fair, but we do staff the police department for extra patrol. And the DPW, I believe, does assist with some barriers, but again, I'm not involved in that process too much.
Okay, I just wondered because you said that sometimes with the fair, there'll
Yes,
be
mostly
higher
for the
staff.
police department.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then we will hear from the next person, who is Dave LaFountain, who is the code enforcement officer in our building department. So Jennifer, can you promote Mr. LaFountain?
I think I got it. He does need to unmute himself though.
Dave, you got to unmute yourself. Okay. Dave, we're not hearing you.
He's not listed as an attendee. I've got him as a panelist now, so I don't think there's anything else I can assist with.
And it's saying at the bottom, it's saying his name.
Mhm.
All right, let me see.
Oh, I just went muted.
Pardon?
He just muted himself again.
All right, he needs to
I think he's probably messing with it, trying to figure it out.
try and figure that out, yeah.
He may have to connect his microphone to a different source, which you can do by clicking on the arrow on the mute button.
Did you hear that, Dave? Who knows if he can hear us? Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Can you-
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. LaFountain. Yes. Okay.
Well, where's my picture?
Do you have a camera on your laptop?
I don't know. I suppose I do.
Well, it's, if it isn't on and like a blue color or showing lights, then we can't see you. But why don't you just go ahead with your presentation, Dave?
There, how's that?
There you are. Oh, there you are. Okay,
Thanks to my wife.
okay.
Okay, so the building department report for 2021. Building department is open Monday and Wednesday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the building inspector's in the office from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on those days, but available by phone all other times. The building department follows the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and the State Energy Conservation Construction Code, both contained in Title 19 and New York State Code Rules and Regulations. Various other parts of Title 19 contain regulations related to the Uniform Code and Energy Code. They cover topics such as administration and enforcement of the code, various procedures, training standards, standards for manufactured housing and factory manufactured housing, council rules and regulations, trust construction, identification, and seeker. The Village of Ballston Spa Building Department is comprised of 2 part-time building inspectors and the fire code enforcement officer and a clerk. The building department is responsible for issuing permits for new construction, improvements, repairs, signs, pools, demolition, ensuring that all village buildings meet the requirements for the New York State Fire Code and Prevention, performing safety inspections and issuing chicken permits. Phone calls are logged in and as they're received via the cell phone. My cell phone rings, the building department office phone automatically rings to my cell phone. So we have access to answering the phone 24/7. Typical calls are related to inspection appointments, zoning and or code requirements, permit processing, complaints, violations, condemnations, demolition, and renovation and upgrade requirements. The department demographics are 4 part-time staff. Statistical data. Number of calls per month. I have them listed here by month, but it's a total of 504 through December of last year. That's calls that come into the office phone and get rolled over to my cell phone. We had 64 permits issued last year for various things such as additions, renovations, chickens, stoves, stove installations, wood stove installations, demolition, emergency generators, fire alarm systems, fire separations, furnaces, carports, new decks, replacement of roofs, sheds, siding, signs, solar, geothermal, swimming pools, and spas. Under denied permits, a permit application can be denied if it does not fit within the New York State Code or the local zoning code. Throughout 2021, 11 permits were denied and went on through the variance process. Inspections. 58 inspections were done to date. 32 certificates of compliance were issued. 26 certificates of occupancy were issued. There were 39 building safety fire inspections completed. Revenues generated through fees throughout the village for permits and applications through 2021 was $4,615. Requests for information. 11 companies requested information on 28 parcels. This includes, but is not limited to, certificates of occupancy, certificates of compliance, open permits, variances, or violations on a particular project or property. Upcoming and ongoing projects. I'd like to see the continuance, to continue to organize and set up the office for maximum filing and efficiency. We need to get the building department up and operating on a software program to maximize efficiency and transparently with the towns of Milton and the town of Ballston. Which a late development on that is I'm meeting with the town of Ballston tomorrow to review and look at a software package that they're considering purchasing. On upcoming needs, organize and renovate the office space to be more efficient, purchase software and computers, and purchase expandable map storage system and another phone line for the building department. Important information that the public needs to know is that just about everything you do in your home or business requires a building permit. The way to think of it is that if you are modifying or expanding a system within your property, a permit is required. If you are unsure of the need of any, if you need a permit, please call the building department and we have our phone number listed there. And that concludes the report for 2021.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And the building department phone number is 518-885-3167. I mentioned that, Dave, because not everybody
Oh, I'm
has
sorry.
it in front of them, okay?
Yep.
This also will be published on the website under the building department. Thank you for that presentation. Any
Welcome.
questions, please?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Dave, when are your busiest times of year? You get a lot of phone calls.
Well, the report shows that our busiest time is coming into March and throughout March, when things in the spring start to open up and people get ready to start their summer and spring projects.
So that sounds like a word to the wise that if you're thinking of doing something this summer, you bet give you a call now.
Yeah. Well, March alone last year was, the phone calls were in the 50s. And that's, that doesn't include the people stopping into the office and that kind of thing. So we have quite a bit of foot traffic in the spring when things start to pick up.
I'd like to attest to the need for storage for the files, having gone through certain files as part of the existing conditions. Yeah, that is greatly needed to be able to store and protect these records, which I believe have to be kept forever, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mr. LaFountain. Thanks again for the report. Your 4 part-time staff, how many hours a week do they each work roughly? They all work the same number?
I work 10 hours a week. Bill Lewis works about 2.5, 3 hours a day, depending on the need. He covers, basically he covers for inspections on the times when I'm not in the village. And the clerk is 16 hours a week, 2 days a week in the office, 8-hour days. And Bob Kavanaugh is, he sleeps over there, I think. He stays there full time.
Just wondering, how many enforcement actions do you have to do a year? Is there, how good is compliance in our village? Is it pretty good?
For the most part, it's pretty good. We last year we've probably had court cases 3 or 4 court cases. Everything else, we do get a considerable amount of complaints, but we typically are able to get those taken care of through voluntary compliance without going through the courts. I would say 2 or 3 a month.
Well, thanks again for your work. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, then, thank you, Dave. Jen is going to, well, if she promoted you, I don't think it means it, don't take it, it's not a demotion. Don't take it that way, but she's gonna take so that you can go back to your,
I'm changing his role.
changing his role. Thank
Just
you.
changing
Changing
the
his
role.
role. Thank you. Okay, better said. Okay. Now, the next is we're going to have a presentation of, by Trustee Cormos. It's going to be on grants. This is an opportune time because we're in the budget process. We're getting, we're doing a lot of work on the budget. We're having department meetings, and we're going to be having workshops in March. And this is, we have a lot of big projects that we are going to be needing to do. And there are a couple of ways to handle it. You can, take from your own budget, your funds. If you can raise taxes, or you can use grants, which is pretty widely an important piece of our business. Okay, so I am going to promote, let me see, I'm going to share my screen. I guess I'll say only host all panels. Who can share? Only host. Okay. That should do it, I think.
Okay, I'm trying to share the screen.
Unless I didn't do it right. Always a possibility.
You could make me co-host for a while. I think then I could share it, right?
Yeah, but we can't have multiple co-hosts.
Oh, you should be able to.
It's saying, all right, you know what? I have to raise the font. I can't, because I can't really see what I'm doing. So bear with me here. All right. Who can share? Only the hosts, all panelists.
Maybe try all panelists.
Yeah.
Oh.
There.
Is it? Host disabled participants screen sharing. I think you turned it off.
Oh, gosh. Okay. How's that?
There you go.
Oops. Can you see?
Yes, I can see the presentation.
I
And
can see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
we
Oh,
can-
great.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. So the topic of infrastructure has been lately amongst the board and also amongst the public, a topic of discussion that we need a lot of improvements. And one of the important aspects of addressing those infrastructure needs is how we're going to pay for it. So I'll go to the first, come on, slide. Okay, just to start, what exactly is infrastructure? According to Merriam-Webster, it's the basic equipment and structures that are needed for a country, region, or organization to function properly. And this is a little illustration of some of the parts of infrastructure. Public infrastructure includes roads, sidewalks, bridges, public transit, airports, passenger rail, water supply and resources, waste management, wastewater management, that's sewer, power generation, transmission, telecommunications, public buildings, and parks. So the definition of public infrastructure is quite broad. So what are the public infrastructure needs of the Village of Ballston Spa? So I've listed some here. Top of the list is the water system, including the water towers, which have been mentioned lately, the wells, the pumps, the pipes, water meters, the wastewater system, which again is the sewer pipes. Luckily, Saratoga County processes our sewer, so we don't have a sewer plant. Stormwater, storm drains, pipes, ditches, flood control, transportation system, the paving, sidewalks, crossings, bus stops, etc. And then there's our municipal buildings, which we also need attention, DPW, most urgently, the police, the court, village hall, and our parks. So how do we pay for all this infrastructure that we need? As the mayor mentioned, we can look to the taxpayers. The water and sewer system, we could raise the water and sewer fees high enough to pay for those improvements. There's raising taxes. There's taking out bonds, which does stretch out the payments, but comes with interest expense. And then there's tapping into our reserve funds. Unfortunately, I would estimate our infrastructure needs are going to be in the excess of $10 to $20 million, and our current reserve funds are a fraction of that. And many of our needs are relatively more urgent than we could save for. So where else do you get the money? Well, federal and state government. There's grants. Many do require some investment by the municipality. That's called the match. There's also programs that offer low or no interest loans. And lately, last year, we did get some money from the American Rescue Plan Act, which we can use for infrastructure. This little pie chart here shows nationally, according to the US Census, where the revenues come from in local municipalities. And as you can see, 33% comes from grants. So this is not uncommon for local municipalities to go for grants to meet their funding needs. Okay, how do we get federal and state grants? Well, first of all, we determine the need. We've got a pretty good handle on that right now. Then we identify sources that match that need. We've done quite a bit of that so far. The next level is a planning study. You need a planning study so you can put forth projects with budgets that are fundable, that meet the needs of the granting organization. That's what we did for the transportation. We did a planning study and we now know what projects we'd like to do. For water and buildings, that's underway to develop those projects. I'll note that the income survey that we conducted last year is really very important to the village because it now allows us to qualify for more dollars, more programs, and less match. Hardship is described as having more than 51% of low and moderate income individuals. We have, I think, 54.5%. So it's not something that, you know, you want to advertise, but is something that will allow us to basically get more money. The next step is applying for funds from multiple sources. To do big infrastructure projects, you usually have to get more than one grant, like because of the match. And if you try to maximize how much you can fund with grants. So far, we've obtained $425,000 awarded in planning grant funds since 2020. We put in $32,000 or about 7%. We've also applied for another 1.3 million in implementation grants, which are under consideration now, and hopefully we'll get them. What actually happens with grants is many times you have to apply, you get turned down, you apply again. Some grants people have applied 4 or 5 times before they're successful. Some examples, Corinth, New York, we've talked about a few times. They're about half the size we are. They, over the last 7 years, had a program where they obtained 21 million in zero interest loans because they were also a hardship community, and 13 million in grants. I just talked to the clerk treasurer, and they are just about done redoing their complete water and wastewater system. Rosendale, about our size, just an example, they upgraded their water system. They received $1 million in zero interest loans and 2 million in grants. Just to note, their water usage was 130,000 gallons per day. And now after repairing all the pipes, they're down to 80,000. So it showed the benefit of replacing the difference is what they were wasting, what they were losing. This example from Corinth, what they did here is they combined the water and sewer line replacement together, which meant they only had to open up the street once. And the grants they got also allowed monies to do repaving and the sidewalks. So they got a beautiful new street while replacing both their water and sewer lines. So this is something we should consider with our infrastructure. If we're going to open up the street, we should do both. I mentioned the American Rescue Plan Act of 2020, known as ARPA. Those funds are COVID related, but they are allowed to be used for infrastructure. We're receiving 536,000 over 2 years. We have 344,000 left because we used funds to replace pumps that we needed to replace. We could use the remaining funds for funding water, wastewater, and stormwater planning studies, and as well as essential repairs, and for matching funds. And that'll be something that the board will need to discuss, how to spend that 344,000. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, is the newest program out of Washington. I forget how many $1 billion it is. It covers a wide range of infrastructure, transportation programs, roads, safety, rail, bridges, airports, electric vehicles, high-speed internet, environmental remediation, and energy. I mean, there's almost nothing they don't touch. The water, wastewater, which is also known as clean water. So it's wastewater, clean water, sewer, it's all the same systems. And stormwater is primarily adding funds to the programs that already exist. There's no new programs under these, or very few new programs, but they've upped the amount of dollars flowing from the federal government to the states for these programs. This is just a breakdown of all this IIJA money. As you can see, the symbols are primarily transportation. The water feasibility study. We sent out about a month ago a request for proposal to do a water system feasibility study. The proposals are due today. Jen will tell me later how many we got. And we asked for both engineering study and grant applications to help us apply for grants to implement the recommendations. The study is designed to be completed in time to apply for implementation grants. Generally, with the infrastructure, you phase your requests so that if you have $10 million worth of improvements, you go for 3 or 4 million a project at a time. I assume our first project will likely address the John Street Water Tower. There's a report, IUP, that's due by July. Grant applications will be sometime in fall. The board, could also discuss whether we either reapply for the sewer system study. We did apply twice and were denied over the last 2 years, or we pay for a planning study first for the sewer system now, and then receive hopefully implementation money sooner. So what grants are available for a water system? New York Water Grants Program, WIA as it's known, through the Environmental Facilities Corporation. They provide 60% of drinking water improvement costs up to $3 million a year. They provide 25% for wastewater up to $25 million, $5 million per year. And then you can fund the rest with a 0% loan through the revolving loan fund. This is the revolving loan fund, which is for both clean water, which is sewage, drinking water. And it's a federal program where the feds provide money to the states to loan to fill in, the gap between what's granted and what's needed, also by EFC. The project has to submit this IUP by July 22nd, which we're hoping to do. It has the scope, the budget, schedule, engineering report, et cetera, et cetera. These grants are rather thick in their requirements. And then funding applications. So we could apply for both a New York water grant and a loan at the same time. I'll mention the community development block grants. This is a funding source which is only available to moderate and low income communities, which we are now one of through the income survey. It's a very attractive grant. It has no match. We don't have to come up, it will pay up to $1 million for a single project and 1.25 million if you use other sources. It's drinking water, sewer, stormwater. This is the grant where you also can include up to 10% for other improvements such as sidewalks, streets, parking space, etc. And your pre-development costs up to 12 months prior may be reimbursed. So if we went for this, we might get some of the money back that we're spending on that water study. I'll lastly mention the USDA Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. This funds public facilities, police station, firehouse, court, town halls, buildings, vehicles, and equipment. So this is something we could look at our equipment needs. I know we have significant equipment needs. It's a funding only for small communities, less than 20,000 residents, and at less than 12,000 population and low income, you can get 55% as a grant. So that means that more than half of the money that you are borrowing from this program will be granted to you, and also allows you to get low interest loans and a loan guarantee. So that's a number of grants for water and wastewater. Here's the rest. The check marks are grants. We've gotten a planning grant for brownfield opportunity. We've done the CDTC planning grant. We've done a DEC urban and community forestry grant, which had no match at all. And we did because it impacts the transportation system, the sidewalks. These are all other grants that we can, the starred ones are ones we've applied for, FEMA grants for the fire department. There are other FEMA grants out there. The TIP and TAP and CMAC are transportation grants. We could apply for local waterfront. I mean, all these sources are available to us, and we need to take a look at which ones fit the projects that we have. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Liz. Very much appreciated. One thing I also want to point out, if I may, and then I'll open it up if any other board member has a comment. In order to get these grants, the process is long. Well, it's long and arduous and involved, but also one of the things that had to happen was that our finances, had to be in order. So until, as you know, a number of years ago that we hadn't filed all our annual audits. We had 4 of them that but now that we have our accounting system in order, and also that we have other systems, because in many instances you have to attest that you're doing certain things like running discrimination and harassment training, and you have to be able to attest to all of that you're doing that before you can apply to these things. So you have to have your fiscal house in order, and you have to have your operational house in order. And we have made, strides in that capacity. So With that, do we have any questions? Any questions from the board?
I have one. Liz, is there thoughts to apply for the downtown revitalization grant?
Yeah, actually, I have a little presentation which I can present on that. It's really a question I think the board needs to discuss. Generally, that is a highly competitive grant. All of these grants, by the way, are competitive. None of them are sure things, but that is a highly competitive grant. And if you look, though, that's one grant where I think Gloversville finally got it after 5 tries. So it's, you know, if we're going to spend money to go after that grant, we have to realize we might not get it the first, second, or third time. But also you have to, as the mayor said, have all your ducks in a row. And one of our ducks, which isn't quite completed, is our comprehensive plan. And that is often, you know, sort of a requirement that they look for. Have you finished that? So given that we're underway with that and haven't, you know, tackled zoning yet, it may be a little premature. I don't know. I mean, this is a program of the state, whether it's going to necessarily be available next year. You know, it's year by year, but we should discuss whether we want to give it a try this year. Now that will have budget implications because you need professional help to put that application together. That's very polished, usually includes drone footage, professional, you know, marketing skill, graphics, the whole bit. So it's you know, it's an investment. Tannersville got it. They're half the size we are. I think we'd be, you know, a strong candidate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Trustee Cormos, I just want to thank you for putting that together. I'm impressed by your ability to find this information and present it in a way that is easy to understand. It takes a lot of skills to put that together, and I appreciate your doing that research, and it's a great benefit to this village. So thanks for doing that. I think a lot of village residents are interested in this kind of stuff. So in terms of applying for so many grants out there, when it comes to actually doing the work to apply, and you mentioned this with the downtown revitalization grant, a lot of these infrastructure grants also are very specialized, correct? And we would hire an engineering firm to do those.
Right, the RFP that we are put out and received proposals for today included both the engineering study, the water study, and the ability to apply for the grant, because you know, most of the major engineering firms have grant departments, and they know they have applied for hundreds of millions of dollars of grants, and you know, we would work with them to, you know, provide the local information that they need in order to, you know, complete the grant. It's really having outside expertise, but they usually, you know, they need to interface with somebody in the village. And, you know, this is an additional burden for Julia and her department, because every grant requires certain reporting. So when you applying for the grant is strenuous, but then once you get it, you've got work to do every quarter. You have to do reports, you have to file, you have to, you know, get the many grants are you put the money out first, and then they reimburse you. So there's, you know, you have to do short-term borrowing if you get a, you know, multi-million-dollar grant in order to do it. But, you know, the alternative is going to the taxpayer, and our needs are so great. I don't think that's a way to go at all.
So just to to continue the conversation about the sewer study, not to decide it tonight, but I would be interested in moving forward on that, or at least to talk about what it would take to move forward on that, because it makes sense in many ways to do that while we're doing water. If we have to dig up a road to do it for both purposes, for example. And right now we're moving forward with water. We've tried to apply, or we applied twice for the sewer grant, didn't get it. We have the funds to do the study necessary to, that's necessary for a grant application. Julia, is it true that we got several thousands of dollars of water fee income from people, right? So there's this additional income source to pay for a study, for example, that really we shouldn't sit on too long if people are, if that's an income source coming from water. So anyway, so I'd be interested in pursuing that conversation and trying to move that forward along with the water. And thanks again. I do have some other new business that I'd like to move forward when we're ready.
Okay, let me, let's go through this if we can. We'll do that, the new business at the end of this other business that we have. Okay, Ben?
Okay.
All right. So may I have a motion that the attached budget transfers be approved?
I'll make the
Make that
motion.
motion.
I beat you.
Okay, you did. Trustee Baskin makes a motion. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Trustee Raymond made that motion. Okay. Motion made, I would need a motion, please, that Zachary Fitzpatrick be appointed as a member of the Ballston Spa Fire Department and assigned to Union Fire Company number 2.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Trustee Raymond, may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
second.
Did we vote on the prior motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, we did not. Okay, let's go back. My apologies. Thank you, Ben. So this is the attached budget transfers, and Trustee Baskin made the motion and Trustee Raymond seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so we're going to try this again. Motion that Zachary Fitzpatrick be appointed as a member of the Ballston Spa Fire Department and reassigned to Union Fire Company number 2. May I have a motion, please?
I will make that motion.
All right, motion by Trustee Raymond. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Baskin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. I need a motion, please, that Eagle Mat Lee Fire Company number 1 be authorized to conduct a private function on February 20th, 2022 from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m.
That's a routine thing that happens, or we
Yeah.
discuss after, I guess, the motion.
Yes.
All right, I'll
May I have
make
a
the
motion?
motion. Sure, I'll make the motion.
Our motion by Trustee Baskin. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Raymond. Any discussion?
So I'm just wondering, this is routine, we don't need insurance or whatever.
What we have, whatever, we have what we need, and this, yes, this is routine.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, aye. Okay, motion carries. Motion made by, we're going to need a motion that Eagle Mat Lee Fire Company be authorized to conduct a private function on March 12th, 2022 from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m.
I'll make
Make
that.
the-
Okay, motion made by Trustee Cormos. May I have a second, please?
I will second.
Second by Trustee Raymond. Okay, any discussion, please? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, we need a motion to authorize approve and authorize the mayor to sign the contract between the Village of Ballston Spa and K. Sickler Murphy for $77,572 for their implementation work on the records management program. Said money to be allocated from the local government records management implementation fund. A grant awarded to the village. So may I have a motion, please? For that.
Make the motion.
Motion by trustee Baskin. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion?
Just thanks again for getting that done, Mayor. And
Okay.
it's great it's starting.
Well, it's really the people doing the heavy lift at this point is the Department of Public Works, who are working very hard on the top two
Yeah.
floors of Village Hall to.
It's been a long time coming, and there's a lot to be done. There's a
there
lot
is.
of records to be dealt with, so.
And it's this one was 116, this is over $100,000 and this had no match. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right. May I have a motion? This motion is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign 5 contracts between the town of Milton and the Village of Ballston Spa for the period January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2022, whereby the town of Milton will allocate to the Village of Ballston Spa the following amounts. For the Ballston Spa Public Library, $41,000. For the Ballston Spa Pool, $16,000. For Swimming Under the Stars, $500. For the Falling Leaves Festival, $500. For the Easter egg hunt, $250. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by trustee Raymond. May I have a second, please?
I'll
Second.
second. Go
Up. I think Liz beat you to it. Okay. Second by trustee Cormos. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay,
I just
motion,
had a question on that one. I was just wondering, is that the same amounts as last year?
absolutely.
Okay,
Okay. And yes, they're the same amounts, and if we don't do the particular function, obviously, we don't receive the money. Okay. All right. Okay, so I have a first, I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. Motion that the Union Fire Company number 2 be authorized to expend the amount of $4,264 for vehicle fittings.
Make that motion.
Motion by trustee Raymond. May I have a second, please?
I'll
Second.
Go ahead.
I think second by trustee Baskin. Okay. Any questions, comments?
what are fittings? That's not, is that repair or is that addition?
Yes, miscellaneous parts for several of the vehicles up there.
Okay,
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, Ben, did you have another item under?
Yeah, actually, it could go under other business. We could do reports first, if you'd like.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to trustee liaison reports. Who has a report, please?
I could just say that all the nonprofits and at least the committees I work with have been told that it's budget season and they need to get their requests in or renew their contracts. And so some have sent in requests. And just a reminder that February 25th, right, is still the deadline if you have any requests. All right. So that's all. We're in the middle of that back and forth.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I just want to give a kudos to DPW and Jeff. in recent weeks, we've had some water main issues, and they've been very diligent in addressing them. And thankfully, we haven't had any significant losses in water service. So I just wanted, amid snow and ice, having to deal with that as well is challenging. And they definitely rose to the challenge, and I really appreciate their work.
I'd have to say they did a, you know, given the circumstances with the ice, the roads were remarkably clear, you know, for what we had. And I'll tell you, it took a whole lot longer for my driveway to look like the road did.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Any other trustee liaison report? Okay. Other business. Ben?
Ben, you're muted.
You're frozen. I think you're frozen. There you go. Okay.
Sorry. One thing I'd like to bring out, I introduced the idea over email. I think we may all be on board with this, is the idea of putting our emails on the website. Right now, there's a form, which if people wanted to email like all of us as a group, they'd have to repeat 4 or 5 times. So I'm certainly comfortable putting, trustee Baskin email on the website. Is that, I think, it's my impression that people were okay with that, but can people share what their thoughts are?
I mean, I'm fine with having my email on the webpage as well. I do think we need to sort of develop some sort of protocol with emails, because we need to certainly loop the mayor in if there's some sort of issue that needs to be addressed, or it's some sort of problem, whether it's a problem that affects DPW or any of the other agencies. She would need to be looped in, and probably the appropriate personnel based on what the problem is.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, we have, the business cards, and I've given them out, and I've had people contact me, and then I, CC the mayor, and, as you said, if appropriate, whatever department deals with that issue. So I don't see that as an issue. I think, being accessible is important.
I think, okay. Julia, you're the website maven. I know that I receive emails through the website. So are the trustee emails, is it one address, or they are specifically named?
No, I do believe, and I'll double check this tomorrow. I do believe the email addresses are already associated with your name on the website. In order to send a direct message, and again, I'll double check this tomorrow, in order to send a direct message to any of the trustees or even the mayor, you'd have to go to their department. This would be the village board of trustees, and then you would click on their name and it would send a direct message to your trustee, Raymond, trustee Cormos email at Village of Ballston.
When I look this up, it goes to a form, so it doesn't list our email addresses on the website.
Yeah. I want to say it won't list the email addresses, but if you do fill out the form, and again, I'll double check it tomorrow.
You're right. It will go to us if you fill out the form. What I'm suggesting is you actually do list the emails also on the web. Just part of the, this ongoing effort to just make it as easy as possible for the residents to communicate with the village board, just to have that actual email address listed and even linked on the website. If people want to email all of us, for example, they have some issue that involves all of us, they can email all of us at the same time and not have to repeatedly fill in a form, for example. So just makes it a little easier for people.
I don't believe that's an issue. I do recall my training a long time ago when we implemented this. There would be a security issue in terms of scam robots or whatever getting these emails and sending them to your email addresses, but we can definitely look into it and just be careful of any scam emails that you receive.
Well, they'll get them anyways.
Yeah, I've been looking at other municipalities' websites, and it's relatively common to have those official emails on there. And
Someone wants to put it in their contact list, you know, they want to just put, they'll have our emails. They don't have to go onto the website every time they want to
Right.
right.
Mhm.
get to us.
I will see what we can do to get them added for you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for that. The other piece that's a little more complicated, I'm going to revisit this, is how to create a reliable way for residents to reach trustees by phone, because not everyone has an email. And there are different ways that could happen. And it could include multiple ways. So for example, we could each have an extension. The mayor and staff have extensions on the phone system. We could have extensions. That happens in some municipalities. You'll see trustees with extensions. Another possibility is something called Google Voice, where it's not your personal phone number, but it does provide a phone number that does go straight to your cell phone. And that way you don't have to check a message. You don't have to go out of your way to check a message. It comes right to you. If we want to do that. And again, there's a variety on, if you look at the towns around us, there's a mix of, some people have what looks like a cell phone next to their name, and others have extension numbers. And then, or another thing to look at, and I'd ask the mayor and the administrator and staff to just start talking about this, is just some reliable system for when a phone call comes in, to identify that that is board related, and to get it to the board in a reliable way. So that's another, because obviously some people just call the main number. They may not ask for a board member, but their call actually has to do with policy or budget or something like that. And so, not to suggest the specifics here, but just I'm hoping we can pursue that goal of trying to make it easy for residents to reach trustees by phone.
I
Thank
will
you.
speak upon that topic, Ben. I do believe that with the new phone system that we're trying to get to, it's been about 8 months, 9 months, 10 months that I've been working on it. There should be an option to have basically a Wi-Fi enabled voicemail, so you can dial into this phone number and dial your extension password or whatever, and be able to access your voicemail. Obviously, we won't be able to get that set up until we do switch the system. But that should be potentially a possibility once that phone system is changed.
Okay, if that's, thanks for looking into that. I appreciate it. And again, that might be the whole answer or just part of the answer, depending on what we think will work best. So thanks for moving that forward. The last thing I just want to say is just to clarify that apparently there's an organizational meeting once a year. And at that time, our lawyer, Carla, you're recommending that we look at our rules of procedure for the meetings, right? And make sure that they exist and that there's some record of them. And right.
Yes, at the organizational meeting, the board should adopt rules of procedure and practice for the actual meetings. Yep,
Right.
that should happen every year.
And that's something that the board as a whole does, is determine those rules of procedure.
Well, the board talks about it and then votes on it at the organizational meeting.
Right, right.
That's something you could help us with, what that would look like.
Of course.
Okay, good.
Sure.
All
Since
right.
there's an organizational meeting coming up, not that far into the future.
April 4th.
Right. So we'll talk about rules of procedure for these meetings at that time. All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, I am going to open I'm going to open this up to public comment. Jen is the co-host, and she also will be the timekeeper. The time is 4 minutes. It must relate to village business. And Jen, you're going to give people when they're at you're going to start it after they say their name and their address. And you are going to, you're going to give people a sign when it's your 30 minutes out, correct?
Correct. I'll do it the same way Julia does. You get your timers. We'll start after you mention your name and address, which I remind people, there are people listening to this meeting who are writing that down, so please speak slowly and clearly. And I'll start your timer, and then I'll wave at you when you have your 30 seconds left.
Okay, so.
At this point, I do not see any hands raised for, oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. All right, Lisa came up first on my screen, so I'm going to allow Lisa to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Lisa Spidell, 106 Prospect Street. I'm going to preface to say that I don't expect an answer on this evening, but it would be appreciated at the next meeting. With the code enforcement officer, Dave LaFountain talking tonight, I missed a lot of the part, so maybe some of these questions were answered. But I only caught the building part. So my questions are, is it common practice to try to rectify code enforcement through notice given, 3 strikes you're out, and you get an appearance ticket, and who currently enforces animal control issues? My second question is, in regard to code enforcement, what takes precedent, village code or agriculture and markets law? That's all. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. I will mute you, or you are muted back up. Thank you.
All right.
All right, next on my list, Frank Rossi, who I will allow to talk.
Thanks, Jen. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Frank Rossi Jr., 63 Saratoga Avenue, Apartment B, Ballston Spa. First off, good questions by Lisa. I hope that she does get answers to those questions. I'm actually curious to what they are as well. The presentation earlier, my cell phone blew up basically during some of that presentation with people that were scratching their heads about a couple aspects of it. And I want to raise the concerns ultimately. First off, it's nothing but it seems like grants for studies, for grants for studies, for grants for studies, etc., with money coming out almost every time from the village in the process while we don't get anything actually done. We've got water studies already done. Our water infrastructure needs work. We know it needs work. We know actually what needs to be worked on. And yet we're still pushing it, kicking the can down the street on this whole thing and talking about future fiscal years and grants and everything else when it's our water at issue. It confounds me, confounds a lot of people why we continue down this road, this cycle of grant, study, action, no. Then on top of it, it must be an election year or something going on here, because to start bringing up threats to taxpayers on, well, if you don't get grants, it's going to cost you as a taxpayer money. Well, at the end of the day, the zero-sum game of money in a municipality says that if we weren't putting money into priorities in the first place and spending money on things that weren't priorities, then perhaps we'd have more money to not go after taxpayers for. So you spend money on things that aren't priorities, you don't have that money. You don't. And then you do have to make threats to the taxpayers. We know that there's been a priority set that's been lacking here in this village. And to sit here and threaten taxpayers is the worst of what you could do. I find it disheartening, disgusting, and honestly, again, on behalf of the village residents that have said it to me over the last couple of weeks, get your priorities set in order. Stop threatening the taxpayers with things that you've done in the past that shouldn't have been done because they shouldn't have taken priority over our infrastructure, water, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All right, the next person on my list is Bob Bush Jr., who I will allow to talk.
Good evening, Bob Bush Jr., 71 Church Ave. Couple things here. A few months ago, the village board meetings went to Zoom only meetings due to COVID, which is understandable. Since then, several board members have attended in-person meetings, whether it's other town board meetings or such, community meetings, whichever it may be, up to today. We currently even have a committee in the village that holds in-person meetings. Several
We lost you, Mr. Bush. Mr. Bush.
He's not muted. I have him, he should be able to talk,
Yeah.
but he does look like he has left. So maybe, wait, he's coming
No.
back? Ah,
There he
there he is.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you guys hear any of that, what I just said, or no?
We lost you after there's another committee that meets in town in person.
All right. Yeah, there's another committee in the village that holds in-person meetings. Several residents have brought up, why isn't the village board meetings in person? So I'm going to ask the board now that the governor has lifted the mask mandates and such, when are we going to resume in-person meetings again? Also, I have Trustee Cromos. You mentioned in the presentation, the water or raise water and sewer fees possibly as one method to pay for these improvements and replacements and such. Why can't the current revenue from the water and sewer bill pay for the system itself? Why isn't it self-sustained? What else is paying for what else is it paying for besides the water and sewer? Also, where do we stand in replacing our water pumps that were supposed to be replaced months ago? Thank you.
Let me move permission from.
Anybody else?
Yep, we have Keith Lewis is next, who I will now allow to talk.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa, New York. I want to say thank you, Mayor Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Mayor Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Mayor Fitzpatrick, for once again showing us what an effective board looks like and sounds like. Trustee Cormos, I want to say I am sorry for any of your critics, because whenever you speak, I am reminded of what skills you bring to the table. I can't help but think about the first board meeting I went before this board was installed, before the progress that you've made, when Mayor Romano talked about sticking checks in a drawer because he was afraid they wouldn't clear, being unable to make pension payments, having not filed financials for 4 years against the requirement of New York State. And I listened to people criticize planning and ask for a different day. And I'm reminded what that different day looked like. It looked like something I had seen out of a reality show, not out of a municipality of our size and our stature. And I just can't help but want to say there are facts, and then there are people that will promote alternative, what they'll call alternative facts. And the fact is, each of you have brought immeasurable skills to your job. You have brought passion to this job. I am always dumbfounded at the fact that you would take the type of unnecessary unfriendliness in order to do your job. I think for $4,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is that you're paid a year, It is un-American. And I just want to say thank you, because the stark contrast is so clear. And I want to say to anyone in the village, it is important for you to know what the truth is and to observe the truth fully. I don't believe that we would ever hear the type of criticism that we've heard in areas where people were not self-motivated in the results. And I'm sad by that. I'm sad because I don't think that is who we should be. And I just want to reiterate, thank you, because you do bring skills to this job that others do not. And you've shown that in the progress. And I'm so proud that you continue to explore the questions before you make the movement, because before, no one asked the questions, they just shot from the hip. And we saw that where that got us. And I think insanity is truly doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So, you know, I just want to say thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right. And Ray is the next person on my list who I will allow to talk. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Ray Otten, 16 Middlebrook Avenue, Ballston Spa. Without all the drama, I think that was all just used up. I do want to say thank you to the mayor for being the only one in attendance from this board at the session the other night that was put on by Chief Dave Bush for the Narcan training. Chief Bush and Captain Morley from the Sheriff's Department, Deputy Perrone, and a multitude of folks from Wellspring were there to speak and teach. And in speaking with those folks that I just mentioned afterwards, they were expecting 12 to 20 people. And I think Christine will verify that we had, I think, close to 60 people there. 60 concerned citizens from the Village of Ballston Spa who felt it was their duty to come and learn about how to administer Narcan, what the problems can be, and you really, those folks made the agency that I represent, made our job a lot easier than any other ambulance company, because now we have 60 more people out there that can administer Narcan in the event that it's necessary. We had 5 deaths in this village in the end of 2021. 2 of those, or 4 of those deaths were 2 couples that died together overdosing on fentanyl-laced drugs of whatever kind. It's an important issue. It's a sad issue. I was just so glad to see all the folks that turned out to look to try and help the citizens of this village. And again, thank you, Christine, for being there and representing the village. Thank you.
All right.
All right, last person with their hand raised at this point is Cameron Parwana. So I will allow to talk. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Kamran Parwana, 86 South Street. Apologies for the scratchy voice. I'm just recovering from the end of a bout of COVID, and as a member of a family who has been extremely careful to avoid any issues, given that our kids are still too young to be vaccinated. I think that speaks a little bit to why it maybe makes sense to still allow some people to attend meetings remotely. So I hope people who are listening in would consider that not everyone is in the same situation that they are, and that it might make sense to still keep that in mind. I just wanted to quickly thank Trustee Cormos for the really excellent overview of the money that's available to the village and the efforts that are being made to redouble our attention to getting that money towards us. And that we finally have people on the board that actually have the skills to attract that money, because I think it's a reason that we're in the state that we are, and the fact that we are now able to go towards attracting that money puts us in a much better position. And I hope that we put the proper attention to those possible funding streams in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and I do have Bernadette, who is ready to talk. Go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jennifer. I don't know what happened. I had my hand up quite a bit earlier, so thank you for seeing that. I just wanted to start off by thanking the DPW for filling a gigantic hole that was on the southbound side of Hyde Boulevard. It was about 3 feet wide and quite treacherous and was causing traffic to go into the other lanes. So as a regular motorist on that road, thank you for filling that in. There's some questions I had based off of Trustee Cormos's presentation, and I'm sure some residents would have similar questions. So I hope the board would be willing and able to address some of these questions. You mentioned that there's 1.3 million in implementation grants that you applied for. When should we expect to hear results from those grant applications? How many have been applied for? Also, regarding the water feasibility studies, you mentioned that the RFP was also to have the engineers apply for these grants. How many rounds of grant applications should we expect? Because Trustee Cormos had also mentioned that it can take multiple times to apply for these grants. And I think the public should know more clearly how much this might cost and how many times they might have to expect the village to come back to the board, back to the table for these applications. So, I just want to point out the good work that Larry had put in place to get our village to where we are, getting our accounting systems up to date, getting the accounting, the audits started. It is a team effort, it sounds like, and I just wanted to again reiterate that. But I know I would like the answers to the questions I put forward tonight, and I bet you a bunch of other voters and residents and taxpayers would also like to know these things. Thank you.
Bernadette, before I lose you, can you give us your name and address?
Oh, sure. It's Bernadette Vendanza. I'm at 9 Mechanic Street. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. At this time, I do not have anyone else with a hand raised.
Okay. All right. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. Then we have board response. Okay. I just have a couple of things. I just wanted to say that to Mr. Rossi, I'm really sorry that you interpret this, what we're doing here, as a threat to taxpayers. It is not a threat from my perspective. It is educational. This is, and I got my start in life as a teacher, and I really think that an informed population is the key to a successful republic. And so I don't see it as we're threatening people. We're informing them so that they know, why we end up doing what we're doing and what their options are. I have to also say, and I've said this before, in terms of planning, you have to have a plan, whether you decide to use your own money and go ahead, and it has to be a current plan. Or if you're going to use or if you're going to go and look for grant funding, you have to have current plans. And that's one of the things that we don't have. Like, we don't have this engineering study that we're going to be doing, which is going to include component where the people who actually do the study apply for the grant. So, and they have their expertise. What we need that, because if we're going to apply for anything, all of this stuff has to be current, and much of our documentation, if you will, or where our pipes or where all of this infrastructure is not current. And what we really want to do in all of our efforts is we want to measure twice, cut once. And this is really one of the things that we're up against, that a lot of the information that we have in order to move forward with this stuff is very old. Our comprehensive plan, which Trustee Cormos mentioned, was we're doing it now. The last time it was done is in 1994. And a lot hinges on us being able to finish that and move forward. And that committee is working hard on that. I want to also talk about Mr. Bush, the pumps. Thank you for mentioning those. They are the last information I had. They were due this month, in the middle of the month. We have them earmarked. We have ordered them. The problem with the pumps, and there are 2 of them that we've ordered, and we're using ARPA money to pay for them. The problem with that is that they are held up in this supply chain that everybody else is having a problem with. But once they are here, they will be put in with dispatch, and they will be installed by the company that we bought them from. Also, in terms of in-person meetings, the fact that some boards meet in person is certainly their prerogative. And people, individuals going to other in-person meetings in other towns or whatever, that's not something that we can control or would even want to. People make those choices on their own. And the other thing is that we have what we will know tomorrow is whether or not the governor is going to extend the state of emergency. And if the governor extends the state of emergency, it will allow people to continue in Zoom mode or instead of meeting in person. So we will make that decision when the governor makes her announcement, which should be tomorrow. So that's all my comments that I have towards anybody from the public. So is there anybody else who would like to comment on anything?
I'd like to answer Bernadette's. The 1.3 is there's a FEMA grant the fire department went out for. I'm not sure when they make their decision. Many times granting agencies do not give you a definite date. It depends on how many applications they receive and how long it takes them to get through. They'll give you sort of a target date. The large implementation grant through TAP CMAC, also we do not know. That's a federal grant. So I'm not sure. Hopefully in the next couple of months, they'll come through with an announcement. As far as rounds of grants, generally, if you put in for a grant like a large grant and you don't get it, you do go back and review it. Some agencies will actually do a review with you and tell you, how close you came to getting funding and what you can do to improve. If you do elect to go again, the cost, if you hired a grant writer, is significantly less the second time around than the first. So, this is just the reality of grants. Your alternative, unfortunately, is taxpayer money, either through fees or taxes. There's no other source out there for getting this. As far as Bob Bush said about why aren't our sewer and water fees sustaining? The problem is that the infrastructure was neglected for so long that the amount of infrastructure repair that we have to replace is way beyond what we can gather through raising rates, the rates would have to be sky high. And there'll be analysis of the engineers do an analysis, do we fix it now or do we fix it after? It's well known that fixing, when you get a water main break, can cost multiple times what it costs for you to, have replaced that pipe with a new pipe, before it broke. Emergency repairs are much more costly. So that's basically the answer to that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Mr. Rossi's comments regarding engineering studies for the grants. The past engineering studies, particularly for water infrastructure, the last one that was done was in 2018. And that study was basically a very preliminary study just to determine the possibilities of what we would need to do to add an additional 500,000 gallons production per day. It wasn't comprehensive as to our whole water system in that regard. And let's say even if it was, there was no plans drawn, there was no decisions made. And since it's essentially going to be, it's 4 years old, in that period of time, it's just at this point, especially with pricing and everything, it's just out of date. So if you're gonna really try to apply for a grant, you need to have a more up-to-date study, and it needs to be specific to what your goals are. So, and in that regard, we have to do another study, just because 4 or 5 years have gone by, and we need to update the status. And a lot of things have changed in that time. As far as moving forward with a lot of these studies, to be honest with you, it wasn't until Mayor Fitzpatrick reached out to me to see what we could do about moving forward with these, that we really made any traction on it. The former mayor never reached out to me to consult with me or to even delegate some responsibility to me to move forward with this. I'm not sure why, but if people are curious as to why those haven't progressed as far as the water studies, that would be the reason. And in closing, I do want to thank Bernadette. I appreciate the shout out regarding the audits. My former trustee, Noah Shaw, and myself started that initiative, actually in the Romano administration, moving forward to get the books squared away. And, I appreciate your acknowledging that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just to emphasize what everyone else has said, which is people in the village should realize that the purpose of studies is not to spend money. The purpose of studies is to save money. And I think what you've heard from all these people up here is that this is being pursued. Our improvements are being pursued in a very methodical, logical, efficient, and cost-effective way by people who know what they're doing and have a plan. And I'm very grateful to be part of that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Nope. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a motion that we go into executive session. And I'll tell you what for, and what we're going to do is we are going to leave this meeting and go into another separate meeting. And when we come back, we will adjourn the meeting and also ask for the audit of the funds for this week, for this period of time. So the public is more than welcome to stay in this meeting. But we are going to adjourn, and I will say to both Jen and Julia and also Terry Clerk O'Connor that I will be very careful when we get back in the meeting to take the notes about who first and who seconded, so that we can audit the financial statements. Okay, so you folks don't, but we will be back. We will be back into this meeting. Okay, and the public is welcome to hang out, but that's all we're going to be doing when we get back in. We're going to be adjourning and asking for an audit of the financial statement. Okay, and with that, I would like the board a motion that the board enter into executive session to discuss potential litigation and employment history of particular individuals. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Trustee Raymond. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
I think she beat you. Second by Trustee Cormos. I can tell by which gets the biggest yellow light around the rim. So it's Trustee Cormos. Okay. And with
Mayor
that,
Fitzpatrick,
yes, yes, may I
Mayor
have,
Fitzpatrick.
yes, may I have, yes. Any question? I will call for a vote.
Well, Mayor Fitzpatrick, hold on a second, please.
Yeah.
We do need an executive session to discuss potential real property purchase.
Okay, in addition to
the other two, yes.
in the addition, thank you. Okay, so it is to discuss potential legislation and employment history of particular individuals and real property. Okay. All right. So with that, may I have a motion? Oh, we have the motion, Trustee Baskin and Trustee Cormos, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries, and I'll see you in the next meeting, or maybe later. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Happy Valentine's.
Yes. What is this saying now?
Mayor, I'm good. You don't need me to stay for the rest of the meeting?
No, I don't, my dear. I'm just trying to get out of here.
Okay. All right, and I'll see you in the morning.
Okay.
Good night.